When people talk about the most violent fighters in K-1 history, one name always comes up. Not because he was the tallest, not because he had the longest reach, and definitely not because he played it safe, but because when he stepped into the ring, somebody was getting hurt. His name was Mike Zambidis. He wasn't built like a typical K-1 destroyer. Standing around 5'5", he looked undersized in a division filled with taller, longer strikers who controlled distance with precision. But looks were deceiving. Zambidis didn't fight like a small man. He fought like a wrecking ball. They called him Iron Mike, and it wasn't a gimmick. His hooks were compact, explosive, and violent. When he planted his feet and unleashed combinations, opponents didn't just get hit, they got cracked. What makes this even more insane is that he shared the ring with some of the most feared strikers in history, including the legendary Buakaw Banchamek. Buakaw was known for composure, brutal knees, and his ability to break opponents mentally and physically. Most fighters looked tense standing across from him, but when Buakaw and Zambidis met, the energy was different because Zambidis wasn't intimidated. He marched forward, threw bombs, and forced exchanges. Even Buakaw had to respect that kind of danger. That's what made Zambidis special. He didn't care who you were, what your record said, or what your reputation carried. If you stood in front of him, you were getting tested. What made him terrifying wasn't just power, it was commitment. When he threw a hook, he meant it. He wasn't throwing to score points, he was throwing to end fights, and many times he did. One of his most iconic weapons was the overhand right followed by a crushing left hook. Short, sharp, perfectly timed. He would slip inside taller fighters' jabs, explode forward, and detonate combinations before they could reset. Crowds loved him, promoters loved him, but opponents dreaded him because fighting Zambidis meant war. There was no slow start, no feeling out process. From round one, he pressured relentlessly, cut off the ring, and attacked harder the moment he sensed hesitation. Some fighters rely on strategy. Zambidis relied on destruction. Yet he wasn't reckless. Beneath the aggression was tight defensive movement, subtle head slips, and controlled foot positioning. He knew exactly when to explode. He was calculated violence, and that's why even elite fighters had to stay cautious. In K-1 Max, he raised the pace to another level, turning fights into highlight reels filled with knockouts that made crowds erupt. You could try to outpoint him, stay long, or clinch, but one small mistake and he would capitalize instantly. Against Zambidis, you couldn't relax, you couldn't coast, you couldn't blink. Every second mattered. Over time, his legend grew, the undersized Greek powerhouse who fought giants and refused to back down, the man who turned chaos into control, the fighter who proved that dominance isn't measured by height, but by violence, precision, and heart. Even today, his name sparks debate. Maybe he wasn't the most technical, but was he the most violent? There's a strong case, because violence isn't about size, it's about intent. And when Mike Zambidis stepped into that ring, his intent was clear. He wasn't there to survive. He was there to destroy.